I'm going to show you a few of the applications you can use to read books on the iPad. Two of them are designed more for reading books that you purchase, and one is a general reader of PDFs and text files that actually works quite well for books as well. Let's start with iBooks, which is Apple's entry. It's available only for the iPad. Your basic interface is the library here, where you see that you're looking at a list of what looks like books. They are books. And I've got a combination of samples, EPUB files, which are an open format, or files you can get in open format and install via iTunes, and books I've purchased. So let's take a look here. We'll start with Winnie the Pooh, which is the book that comes with every copy of the iPad iBooks app. And you can see it's got full color. It's rather quickly. You can zip through books, see subheads as you scroll around. And let's look at the interface around here. The library returns you back to the home. This table of contents item lets you see all the titles for different tables, different chapters. You can tap, takes you there, and you'll notice when you're in table of contents, there's a resume button up here in the corner that lets you go right back to where you left off. So you can read the book. If you want it to be a little brighter, is that a little dim? Let's zoom it up there a little in brightness. The brightness is independent of system level brightness, which makes it a little bit easier to read. And you notice there's also a font control here. Lets you choose among fonts. I think Palatino is the most legible. You can go up and down, and the text reflows around illustrations that are in line like that, and immediately reformats itself. And you can see the page numbers here is 123 of 167. If I make it larger, suddenly it's 131 of 187. We can still go back and forth through all of this. If you turn the book on the side, I've got a rotate lock enable button here, an orientation lock. If I unflip that, set it to fine here, then suddenly you can rotate and look at the book in a two-page spread, which is rather nice. It's one of the nice features about it is you've got either this view or you've got this view, and it works automatically. You're not having to control it or make any other settings to make that work. So this is certainly one of the nice parts, and the fact that the illustrations work so well in reflowing is, I think, rather nice too. So that's most of the application. It's a very simple interface. Let's go back to, I'll turn it back on the lock orientation again so it doesn't suddenly flip in a different spot here. Go back to library, and that's how you access the iBook store as well. So you go back to the library and tap the store button in the upper left, and then it shows you books that are available. Here's the home page, different titles you can scan through. And of course you can type in here and type in something like Lori King, well-known author. You start typing, it fills it in. She's obviously one of the most popular authors, so Lori R. King appears at the top. Tap that and it shows, well, a pretty modest selection of works from somebody who has 30 or 40 titles. You tap The Beekeeper's Apprentice. It shows you information about the book, but they're not licensing data from, say, Publishers Weekly or other review sources, so you have to rely on what's here. No one's reviewed the book yet. A little paltry. You can click Get Sample, and it'll download a sample. It'll show you as it's downloading. Labels it, oh, I'm in the wrong spot there. Labels it sample, shows you the blue bar as if it was an application loading. You tap it, and there's a sample. There's a subtle buy button at the top. And if you go to the very end of the book, there's also a little buy screen there at the end to tap. But in the meantime, you're free to read the book without it being anything but a hassle. Should bring up the search feature here. You can search within the book. Let's say I want to search for Holmes, since this book is a fictional account of a fictional character. Search is up there. I can tap that. I can bring it back up to find additional things. I could also tap Search Google and Search Wikipedia. That will launch Safari and take me out of the iBooks app, so I'd rather stay in it. You can see it highlights that. I can tap here, and I could bookmark that entry, and it puts a little, let's make the type bigger so you can see how that works. If I tap a word, say feeble evocations, I want to take that sentence there, take on a life of their own. So standard copy and paste dialog, tap bookmark, and suddenly it's in this sort of bookmarky, highlighty, irregular thing. I can tap that and change the color. It's blue, I can make it pink. I don't know if pink is appropriate for Sherlock Holmes. Make it yellow so it's brighter. I can also remove the bookmark. In addition, I can look up dictionary words. So if I take Sherlock Holmes here, and I do dictionary, it'll show me a dictionary entry that I can scan through. And tap to make that go away. And you can, of course, tap a word and have it search on that as well using the same dialog. That's pretty much iBooks. It's actually a very simple application, easy to use, easy to read in. Let's look now at Kindle for iPhone OS, I guess one would call it. It's the Kindle app. It's been modified by Amazon without having seen an actual Kindle or iPad reader, rather. They didn't have pre-release access to the hardware, so there's room to grow on this, but it's reformulated. It's got this beautiful illustration with some depth of their standard Kindle illustration, and it has two main views here. You can show the home, which is books that are already downloaded to this device, and you can tap this and click Archive Items, which is referring to all the items you purchased on any Kindle device or any Kindle software browser, and are in your account that this is registered to. So these are all the books that I've purchased, and I could tap one of them, like, for instance, another Laurie King book. Obviously, I'm a fan. Download it. It'll show that it's downloading. And then if I go back to home, it appears there. You can tap the book to read it. It opens it up. This is the first page of the book. A bit fewer controls here for type size, although more richer controls for marking. I have option with a nice transition there to make it bigger or smaller, switch among with a sepia background, a white background, or the inconceivable white on black, which I can't imagine reading, but perhaps it's easier on the eyes for some people. You can also independently control the brightness here from the rest of the system, which is a nice feature. You can add bookmarks, tap up here to add a bookmark, tap down here to add or remove a bookmark as well. And the go-to feature lets you go to, see the cover, it's nice. The back button takes you back to where you're at. Table of contents lets you, of course, go through here. Not a very useful table of contents, just having the chapters. And there's also location. You can enter a location number, which is essentially the paragraph number of the book. Now, if I make an annotation of the book, let's go to, say, chapter 11, and I tap, and it lets me drag this part. I can add a note. Say, here's where Jack the Ripper would be mentioned, just for fun. And I type that in. See, it's a lot easier to type on this thing too. It may be obvious than on some other device. And you save, and now that's saved. There's a note there. I could also highlight the phrase. If I hold down there for a second, I can do, oops, sometimes hard to grab. Grab that. I'm having trouble here. Let's grab that. Oh, there we go. I just want to grab these two words. Highlight. And there we go. Those are added. Then if I tap here again, bring up the bottom, it shows my notes and marks. It shows those two items, what they are, and then I can just tap to go there. Now, if I rotate, I'm going to unlock the rotation lock here. And if I rotate, it's going to be troublesome, as you can see, because the page is now wider. This isn't going to a two-page view. It's something Amazon may want to work on in the future. As I said, they just got the hardware. Let's lock that back up. So the lock icon appears. And that's more or less how you read in here. Now, if you want to purchase books, of course, that's the big question. You go back to home, and there are also a couple of settings, interestingly, in an iPhone-sized screen here, where you can change. You can turn off the animation for reading. You can see who's registered this device and go back, and there's some general information here. The sync button, which appears on book pages, also lets you sync up. Since this is the Wi-Fi iPad, if you might be offline and want to sync up and get all of your notes, highlights, the position that you finished reading a book or were left off reading a book somewhere else on another Kindle device or Kindle software, you can use that to sync manually. Otherwise, it's syncing while you're doing things. There's another view here, too. You can view books as a list if you want. If you want to shop, what it does, of course, is Amazon doesn't want to give a cut, ostensibly, to Apple for doing in-app sales, at least yet, because they themselves are already paying the publishers for rights. So you go here, you can purchase a book here. As soon as I buy a book here, I decide, I want to buy this book. The moment I'm not logged in on this device yet, but the moment I decide to tap buy with one click, you'll see here it says deliver to your Kindle or other device, and then it's suddenly available. If you go back to the Kindle app, it'll be available.